Good day, everyone. I hope all of you are okay. This is actually our third uh, session of the Leadership to Go um, module, track 3. This is exclusively for uh, assistant managers. The things that we discussed before was for being a supervisor. Today, I will discuss about things like duties and responsibilities of a manager. So let's proceed with the slides. It's actually track 3 of the Leadership to Go series. I created this program for managers. Why? Because I realized I need to build my team. I used to complain about not having the right people, HR not giving me the enough resources. So I decided with this leadership series to build the team that I want. It's like there's a story about during the 18th century about three stone cutters. They were actually asked what were they doing. And the first one answered, I'm cutting stone. The third one answered, I'm earning a living. But the third one said, I'm building a cathedral. So which one are you? Are you here just to cut stones, to earn a living, or to build your own community, build your own future? Okay. So we've done the Rise Up model and then the Live Up series. Now I'm going to present the Shape Up series. Shape Up because since you are already a manager, it's your duty to shape the minds and hearts of your people. So it's not you anymore. It's about the people under you. How will you lead them, manage them, and make them more efficient and productive? I will also discuss the becoming a 1-minute manager. These are simple steps on how to be an effective manager in such a short period of time. Okay. So are you agreeable with this? According to the Center for Creative Leadership, transition from supervisor to manager, going from individual contributor to a manager is the biggest psychological shift in a work career. Okay, tama ba yan? Are you agreeable with that? When you were a supervisor, you're handling maybe one department, no? But when you become a manager, you're handling 2 or 3 or more departments that would entail more people. So I would tend to agree that it's a psychological shift in your work career. Because if you're handling only a few before, now you're handling hundreds and thousands. So again, our objectives are to learn, to lead, and to serve. In learning, hopefully I can teach you the key skills every manager needs. And then common mistakes of managers. In leading, I'll discuss the 1-minute manager. And then in serving, how do you spot or how do you appraise individuals so that they can have their own future in the company? Let's start with this book by Marshall Goldsmith. What got you here won't get you there. So even if you are a manager already, it doesn't stop from there. You have to still improve yourself. Why? Because life and work is changing. I used to believe that I have everything already because I'm already the president. However, since the new generation is coming, I have to learn and to know the new workforce, which are the millennials and the Gen Z employees or staff. Luckily, I took up my master's and most of my classmates are millennials. Some are Gen Z. Okay? In our company alone, 93% are millennials and Gen Z. So I have to adjust. I have to know what are their intricacies so that I can adjust my leadership style. So it doesn't mean that if you are already at the top that you can stop learning. You still have to learn. Okay? And also because different positions require different leadership behaviors. So just like what I said and showed you the last time, if you are a recent graduate, the expectation from you is just being a hard worker, being proactive, having that intelligence, you're reliable, and somebody who has ambition. But when you become a manager, it's you have to develop additional skills like motivating others, decisiveness, industry experience, networking ability, and delegation. And then if you want to become an executive, you have to have that vision. You have that ability to motivate others, honesty and integrity, decisiveness. So meaning you have to scale up. You have to upgrade your skills, knowledge, and attitude. That's why you should be a lifelong learner. Okay? So again, just to recap what we learned about leadership. Leadership is the ability to articulate a vision and get others to carry it out. According to Jeffrey Crames, you have to lead from the front where the struggle doesn't end just because the leader has left. So you have to distinguish yourself and upgrade yourself from being a manager to a leader. So what are the comparisons between a supervisor and a manager? Well, a supervisor oversees the employees. A manager manages the resources of the organization to achieve the ultimate goals. A supervisor reports to the first level managers. A manager reports to the high level managers or even the board of directors. So ang supervisor, introverted, ang manager, ambiverted. And then the task for managers to manage the 5 M's of the organization. Ano ba yung 5 M's? Men, money, material, method, and machinery. Okay? So yan yung kailangang i-manage ng managers. In terms of what do they look after, a manager is responsible to look after the work and performance of the entire unit or department or store. So that's why mas mataas ang sweldo ng manager sa supervisor. Okay? Well, in terms of other comparisons, in terms of focus, a leader is in charge of leading the people. A manager managing work. In terms of power, a leader has a personal charisma. A manager, formal authority. Okay? In terms of persuasion, a leader sells. In terms of being a manager tells. Okay. Other comparisons in terms of conflict, a leader uses while a manager avoids. And then who takes the credit? A leader gives, a manager takes. Okay? In terms of creating impact at scale through others, and in terms of career progression over time, the leader overtakes the manager. So as time goes by, the leader becomes more effective than the manager. Okay? So it's important that you transcend yourself from being a manager to become a leader. So let's go to the basic skills a manager needs. Una, communication skills. As a manager, you deal with a lot of people, so you have to have that communication skills. Number two, collaboration and negotiation skills. Sometimes you deal with external partners, vendors, suppliers. So you have to collaborate with them and negotiate with them. Number three, leadership and people management skills. Well, of course, you're handling people, you're handling an entire store. You should have that leadership and people management skills. You cannot achieve success without those skills. Number four, business management skills. Well, of course, you have to know something about the business. You have to know something about what you're selling, what's your services, and then making sure that you convey the company's goals and philosophies to your people. Okay. Number five, which I will elaborate also later, is your financial skills. How do you budget, forecast, accounting basics, and computer literacy? Number six, critical thinking and problem solving. As managers, it's always important to have that ability. Why? Because you will be facing a lot of issues, concerns. And then number seven, forward planning and strategy. How would you compete? How would you make your company different from others? Okay, what is your unique value proposition? Okay, so I'm going to discuss two basic skills. Una, decision making. Decision making is a process of choosing from among alternatives. Rational decision making consists of several steps. So these are the steps when you make decisions. Una, identifying problems. Okay, ano ba yung problema ng tindahan nyo, ng store, ng organization? And then generating alternatives. What are the things that you can do to solve those problems? And then evaluating alternatives. Which among the 3 or 4 or 5 solutions can you use? Okay? Then choosing the optimum alternative. Ano ba yung pinaka-okay na less destructive or less or will not sink the boat. And then implementing the decision, and sometimes nakakalimutan natin yung last part, evaluating the decision. Okay? As a president and as a manager before, these steps are helpful in making decision makings. In terms of giving advices and deciding what is the best for the department, organization, and company. Okay? I mentioned about financial management. You should have that skill. Why? Because as I mentioned in my past session about supervisors, I had a classmate who is a Marine. And when I say Marine, he's a seafarer. I call them Marines. And he was the one who mentioned about this, that a seafarer's life is like a rat race. Why? Because they go to a certain destination, they earn money. When they go back to their loved ones, they have they buy things, and then they have excessive lifestyles, and then they have debts, and then it's a cycle. They have to go back and work again. So as a manager, we have to be the example of our employees, and we have to be the one to tell them to manage their finances. Okay? Kung blockbuster to movie na to, I'm sure this is a common thing about our people as well. Hello, sahod, goodbye. Pagkatapos magsweldo, bili, gastos, and then goodbye na. Okay? So these are the things that we have to avoid. So you have to distinguish what is a want and a need. Okay? Ano ba yung wants? Ano ba yung needs? Is a car a want or a need? Is a house a want or a need? Okay? If I'm going to buy a cell phone, is a branded cell phone a want or a need? Okay? So this would be the first thing that you have to analyze. Do you really need those items? Okay? And because in financial terms, you have profit and loss. So meaning, kumikita ka ba or nalulugi ka ba? Okay? And then ano ba yung income mo? Okay? Ano yung earnings mo? Magkano yung sweldo mo, which is your income? And then ibabawas mo yung inyong expense, yung mga gastos nyo. And then ano yung budget? So for example, your budget for load is only 300 pesos a month. So dapat you shouldn't exceed the 300 pesos a month. And then the savings is your budget less your actual expense. Okay? Nag-budget ka ng 300, ang nagastos mo lang is 250, so you have a savings of 50 pesos. Okay? So because I'm not here to just teach you about the theories, I want to explain everything in layman's term so that you will better appreciate financial management. No? For example, in this matrix, your salary is 35,000. Okay? Your house is 30,000. Okay, 600. Your food, 10,000. Rental, 5,000. Electricity, 2,000. Water, 600. Communication, 1,000. Cable, 500. House helper, 5,000. Groceries, 5,000. Others, 1,500. Tuition, 5,000. Work expense, 3,800. Okay? So your gross income of 35,000 less your expense of 39,400 yields a negative profit and loss. Kasi meron ka pang luging 4,400. Yun yung negative P&L. So lugi tayo. Okay? That is the reason why maraming nalulugi. Kasi mas maraming expense, mas malaking expense kaysa sa income. Okay? So I wanted to present to you this because this is the thing that you would understand right then and there. Okay? Because this one is related to your house, your expenses. So how do you convert this negative P&L to a positive P&L? So dapat mas maliit ang gastos kesa sa gross income. So for example, sa food, Instead of the regular 10,000, nagbawas ka ng 9,000. Kung dati, lagi kang Jollibee or McDonald's, ngayon, pupunta ka na lang sa karinderya. Okay? And then, yung water mo, instead na ang gripo mo 5, tinanggal mo yung 3 gripo. So, 2 na lang ginagamit yung faucet. Okay? And then, in terms of cable TV, why do you need 100 channels? Eh, hindi mo naman napapanood ng sabay-sabay yung 100. Di ba? So, concentrate on just 5 channels. So, 250 na lang yung cable mo. Okay? Tapos, yung communication mo. Instead na puro text and text, and then you just use Wi-Fi kung may free Wi-Fi within your vicinity. Okay? So, that is how you create a positive P&L. Bawasan mo yung gastos. Okay? So your assignment is how to make your own P&L with your actual income and your actual expense. So I want you to practice it and do it so that you can determine if this is a want or a need. Okay? So this is very basic. So make sure that you do your assignments. Okay? Because it will help you understand what is asset and liability, what is a want and what is a need, and what is income, what is expense, what is P&L or profit and loss. Okay? Dapat as a manager, you know that. Okay? This is an example. Ngayon, I taught you about the skills that a manager needs. Ano naman yung common mistakes of a manager? Okay, number 1, still trying to do things yourself. 2, focusing on details rather than on goals. 3, imitating others. 4, making promises you can keep. 5, missing out on early wins. 6, refusing to make decisions. Number 7, not providing prompt feedback. 8, being too friendly with people. 9, misunderstanding motivation. 10, hurrying recruitment. 11, not setting the right example. And 12, failing to define goals and priorities. So ano ba yung number 1? Common mistakes, no? So ito, you're not providing prompt feedback. Why? Sometimes you avoid conflict. You don't want to talk to the person. But how can you resolve that if you will not talk to your people? So you have to set the right example. Okay? This one is failing to define goals and priorities, being too friendly with people. Okay, that's why sometimes I don't accept being a ninong or a God, how do you call that? A godfather. Because sometimes when you're too close to your people, how can you be objective? No? I remember one of our supervisors before who is the ninang ng bayan. So when suddenly her peer violated a regulation, she was supposed to reprimand the person. And what if that person tells her, "Ma'am, isususpend niyo ako? So paano yung inaanak niyo? Wala akong pambili ng anak ng diapers or milk." Okay? So it's always important that you have to have that objectivity whenever you confront people. Next is refusing to make decisions. This is the greatest mistake that you can do without making decisions. No? It's better that you make decisions and even if it's wrong, you learn something from it. Okay? Focusing on details rather than on goals. Ito, malimit to. Why? Because we're uh, nit nitpicking. So the goal is really to hit our quota, to hit our targets. But we tend to focus on small things. Okay? So according to my mentor, one of my mentors, mistakes as learning opportunities. Sabi niya, mistakes are there, ready to be committed, but don't be scared. Learn from your mistakes to avoid repetition. Learn from others' mistakes. Persevere and overcome mistakes and challenges, but by all means, learn so you can be better and better. Okay? So what are the challenges naman? So I mentioned about the skills, common mistakes. What are the challenges of a manager? One, achieving a stretch goal. Two, bringing out the best in your employees. Three, dealing with underperforming employees. Four, uh, dealing with outstanding employees. Five, hiring the right people. Six, responding to a crisis. Seven, continuous improvement. So how do you achieve stretch goals? Well, of course, when you have a demanding boss, he or she requires a lot from you, and to have you need to have a balance of what to do, a balance of what would I prioritize, the top line or the bottom line, the expense, my KPIs, or how do you protect the environment also when it comes to business. So you have to have that balance. Okay? Bringing out the best in people. Well, of course, if you know the person that you're leading, it's simple, it's easy. However, you have to know your people well, the right people for the right job. Okay? Normally, what I do is I I check who is the best person in that particular position and then expose him or her to various functions so that in turn if I'm not in the office, I'm on leave or on day off, that person can carry out the task. Okay? Because sometimes we choose our favorites. No? You cannot do that. What if that favorite is not qualified? So for example, you want to assign a bagger to a package counter. So the package counter requires organizational skills, PR, and matching skills. Not all baggers have those qualifications. So if you pick a particular favorite, he will not be efficient. So you have to check first the task, the qualifications before you can assign that person. Okay. Next is dealing with outstanding employees. In reality, this would be easy, but sometimes we forget to recognize them. So you also have to praise them. Sometimes we're focused on scolding or reprimanding our employees, but I'll tell you frankly, if you praise them immediately, that goes a long way. And I will further explain later. Crisis management. So you have to teach your people how to handle crisis. Sometimes we are uh, faced with calamities, typhoons, earthquakes, even volcano eruptions. So you should be able to have that crisis management team to handle certain situations. Okay. Another challenge would be how to improve yourself. As I mentioned earlier, you have to be a lifelong learner. Don't be satisfied with what you have. Okay? You have to continuously learn. In one of the sessions I initiated, I asked all the employees what are they doing during their day offs. Okay? Imagine in 1 year, you have about 46, 48 day offs in a year. And when I asked them what were they doing, naglalaba, nagpa-plancha, nag-aalaga. So imagine in 48 days in a year, you are doing the same things. So what did you learn? What did you improve on? So if you are investing in gadgets, so you should also invest in yourself in terms of knowledge. Okay, buy books, read books. Sasabihin nyo, mahal. No, you can read via online. It's already free. We have a lot of ebooks available. In my e-coaching sessions, most of them are ebooks and it's free. So expense is not an excuse. Time is not an excuse. You have to develop yourself every day, every week, every month, every year. Uh, I always have this focus that every year I should learn something new. Okay, about 10 years ago, I started running marathons. After that, I bought a road bike. After that, I went into swimming, but I got into an accident. I have a broken clavicle. So I wasn't able to pursue that swimming. So hindi ako pwedeng mag-triathlon. Only duathlons. And then, nagsawa ako sa sports. I went into music. And nag-drums ako and then nag-guitar. Unfortunately, music is not for me. So at least I found out that it's one of my weaknesses, music. Okay? So continuously improve yourself. If you don't do that, then you have no right to ask for promotions or an increase. Why? Because how can you get more if you are giving less? So to get more, you have to give more. Okay? So before you are a leader, success is all about growing yourself. When you become a leader, success is all about growing others. Okay? So being a manager, sometimes you are not aware or you don't interfere with human resource management. No? Being a manager, you are part of HR. So you are in charge of human resource planning, especially during peak season. You are in charge of recruitment also because you are dealing with people. Then selection, is this the right person for the right job? Professional development of that person. Before, I used to rely on HR training. So the training department is in charge of the overall development of the people, which I don't believe. No, you as the manager should be able to build your own team. And when you build your own team, you should be there. You should be the one inculcating the culture, the principles and philosophies, the core values of the company. And then their professional development, performance appraisal, and also the compensation. Because when you evaluate them, they are entitled to a certain compensation if they did well. Okay. So what is human resource planning? Involves meeting current and future personal needs. Ensure that personal needs are met through ongoing analysis of performance objectives, job requirements, and available personnel, coupled with a knowledge of employment laws. So kailangan, alam nyo rin yung mga employment regulations. Okay? So how do you start developing your people? Through performance appraisal. Okay? So performance appraisal is systematic evaluation of the individual with respect to his or her performance on the job and his or her potential for development according to Dale Beach. Okay? Systematic evaluation. Okay? With respect to his performance and potential for development. So ano ba yung purpose ng performance appraisal? Una, compensation decisions, promotion decisions, training and development programs. So if you are able to check what is the person's weakness, then you plug in with the training so that that weakness becomes a strength. Feedback to the employee, and then personal growth and development. Okay? This is something I learned in my masteral course. How do you give feedback? So use the RICE model. Okay? According to, I forgot the name of that person. Use the RICE model. Reflect. Okay? Before you talk to the person, you have to reflect first. Okay? And then inquire. Because sometimes what you heard from another person is different from the actual reality. So you inquire with that person, is it true or not? And then suggest. Okay? Suggest but not decide. Why? Because you will be blamed if you decide for them. And then elevate it. So if that person committed a mistake, then elevate it so that that person will not commit the same mistake. Offer that person alternatives. Okay? So use the RICE model. Here is a sample of a performance rating sheet. Okay? So for example, in terms of productivity, you will be rated. In terms of your job knowledge, you will be rated. Normally, there's a selection. If you are outstanding, average, below average, or needs improvement. Okay? So some of the factors are initiative and resourcefulness, dependability, reliability, human relations, customer service, and sometimes personality traits are being considered. Attendance is also being considered. So that example is something that you have to do per individual. All those reporting to you, you have to rate them. Some are quarterly, some are twice a year, some are monthly. So based on your ratings, they will sum it up and divide it and get the weighted average. And then from the weighted average, there's a corresponding amount of increase in your compensation. So what's important here is that you have to be objective. Okay? Objective in a way that if the person is deserving, then you give that person a good grade. So how do you lead? How do you learn? I'm going to teach you now the Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goodman. So according to him, it's a group of 5 skills that enables the best leaders to maximize their own and their followers' performance. So kailangan daw, as managers and leaders, you should have these 5 skills: self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills. I will not touch everything, but I will focus on 2 or 3 5 skills. Okay. For example, it's self-awareness. So self-awareness means knowing one's emotions, strengths, weaknesses, values, and goals and their impact on others. Okay. Um, a good example here is that I'm aware that I am not that patient anymore when it reach 3 to 5 p.m. already. So meaning there's a lot of tasks involved from 8 to 3 p.m. So what I do is that I ask all my staff to present to me in the morning, okay, to make sure that I don't um, get angry easily. Okay, self-regulation. So controlling or redirecting disruptive emotions and impulses, knowing that I easily get angry. So what I do is that I exercise early in the morning. So that's why I asked my staff to ask approval or present in the morning, because I noticed that every time I have a physical activity, I'm more tolerating or I'm more accommodating. Okay, so that is what you call self-regulation. Okay, I think having social skills is important. Why? Because you have to develop teamwork. Okay, empathy is also important. Putting yourselves in other shoes. So, me being a president, I came from the ranks. I became a supervisor, a manager, an executive. So I know how it feels to become a supervisor and a manager. So empathy is something that is innate in me. Okay? And you should have that adversity quotient. According to Dr. Paul Stoltz, the capacity of the person to deal with the adversities of his life. As such, it is the science of human resilience. So we've always been hearing about being resilient, being like the bamboo. So especially with the new generation, we have to teach them how to become resilient. Why? Because they don't last 2 or 3 years. After 2 or 3 years, they resign, they leave. Why? Because of difficulties at work. Because what they learn in school is different from what they learn, what they experience in their work. Okay? So this is just a sample of how people respond to adversity. Okay? If you have resilience, then you have the ability to succeed in many endeavors. Okay? And you can handle stress well. So in EQ, you should also have a gratitude quotient. When you cultivate gratitude, you are more likely to also be happier. You know, sometimes we hear it's lonely at the top. Sometimes it's true as a manager. You have less friends. You cope more adaptively and increase your relationships with the people who are dear to you. Okay, so you should have that gratitude quotient. By implementing gratitude into the company culture, employees are more willing to spread their positive feelings with others. So what are the reasons why we cultivate gratitude? Team spirit, excellent choice, health, personal growth, abundance, and positive memories. So I always have that gratitude feeling to all those people and institutions who helped me. When I was in college, I was a working student in FEU and I work in McDonald's as well. So from time to time, I help out my alma mater and McDo as well. So leading, how do you lead? By being a 1 minute manager. So how do you become a 1 minute manager? So you should have 1 minute goal setting. How do you do that? 1 minute goal setting. You write out each of your goals. Ano ba yung gusto mong ma-achieve in terms of responsibilities, your accountabilities, and your performance standards. And then see what good behavior looks like. Okay? So kung maganda yung behavior ng tao, what do you do? So take time to reach each goal. Review your performance. Ano ba yung performance mo from a scale of 1 to 10? And then does your behavior match your goal? Is your attitude going to going to help you towards your goal? If you're hot-headed, you cannot achieve your goal. Why? You have to be patient. Okay? So that's 1 minute goal setting. Okay? Of course, you have to follow the goal setting parameters, which is SMART. It has to be specific, measurable, attainable, and time-bound. Okay? And then, 1 minute praising. This is something that we sometimes lack. Gusto natin puro reprimand. So what do we do in 1 minute praising? Catch people doing right. I have a manager. My first manager taught me, catch your people doing good. Okay? Ito naman, catch people doing right. Okay? So you have to catch them doing right and then immediately praise them. Okay? And then describe what was done right, be specific. Tell that person that you did a great job because of this and this and this. And then share them how good you feel. Share it with others. And then encourage them to do more. And touch them in a way that shows your support. Pat them at the back. Okay? Uh, Page them or announce them in your weekly meetings. Okay? So that's how you do the 1 minute praising. Okay, so this is the most common 1 minute reprimand. So what do? You confirm facts. Let the people know how they are doing. So sometimes we are swayed by what people tell us. So it's important you confirm facts and then reprimand them immediately. Tell the person exactly what he did wrong. Ano ba yung naging pagkakamali niya? Stop for a moment of silence. Let them feel how you feel. If you feel disappointed, if you feel that they turned you down, let you down, then something that you have to discuss with them. Do not attack the person, only the behavior. Sabi nga nila, soft on the person, hard on the problem. And then touch the person and tell them how much you value them. Realize that reprimand is over. So once you already reprimanded them, then give them a second chance. Okay? So whenever I talk to a person, I make sure that when they go out of my office, their self-worth is intact. Okay? So that's the 1 minute manager. Okay. So you have to lead leaders. Selecting leaders is the single most important task of other leaders. People ask me, what is my secret? The secret really is selecting the leaders who will manage the organization for you, because you cannot just select. You really have to know that person. For example, I was assigned in Cebu, and after being assigned in Cebu, Iloilo, Davao, and Cagayan de Oro, whenever I'm asked who to assign to that particular store, I would always say assign the best person. Why? Because if you don't assign the best person, you would always call their attention, or you would always check on that particular manager that you sent. So it's an additional work for you. So why send somebody who would not do a good job and who would always give problems for you? So select the right person. Okay. So how do you serve? You lead by example. As a manager, as a leader, you always have to lead by example. And then you have to coach and mentor them. Uh, if you become a senior manager, you will be part of my e-coaching session, track 4. If you become an executive, you will be part of my mentoring, track 4. And then you have to inspire them. Okay, it's hard if you are saying this and yet you're doing a different thing. And then empower them. Something I learned when I was an executive before I became a president. It's hard if everyone goes to you and asks for your approval. So you have to empower your people so that you can also enjoy your work, your life, your family. Okay? And then don't forget to motivate them. I know people say that you can only motivate yourself, but uh, you can always motivate others. Motivation is for me a two-way street. Okay? So you have to teach it, you have to share it for them to become successful. Okay? But I'm going to add another one. You have to engage. So learn, lead, and serve. And as a manager, you have to engage them. How do you engage? Well, using different leadership styles, like the situational leadership, different strokes to different folks. Okay, you have to use those skills, learning how to identify the development levels of the person. Is that person a beginner, a disillusioned learner, a capable but cautious leader, or a self-reliant achiever? So these are the 4 development levels of a person. Match it with the appropriate leadership styles. Okay? So si D1, who is a beginner, you cannot delegate the responsibility. You have to direct it. If he is D4, high competence, high commitment, then you can delegate those responsibilities. So meaning, identify first the person's development level and then choose the appropriate leadership style. I'm going to show you a video about change, because one of the things a manager does is implement change. Okay? It's titled Who Moved the Cheese? I'm going to share the video.
Once long ago in a land far away, there lived four little characters who ran through a maze looking for cheese to nourish them and make them happy.
Two were mice named Snip and Scurry.
And two were little people named Ham and Haw.
As different as the mice and little people were, they shared one thing in common.
Every morning, they left their homes and raced out into the maze to find their favorite cheese.
Snip and Scurry had simple brains but good instincts. They used a simple method of trial and error.
Snip would smell out the general direction of the cheese.
And Scurry would race ahead.
They often went off in the wrong direction and bumped into walls.
But Ham and Haw had complex brains with beliefs and emotions that made their life in the maze more complicated and challenging.
Finding cheese was important to the little people.
It was a way of getting what they thought they needed to be happy. For some, it was having material things. For others, it was health or peace of mind.
For Haw, cheese meant living in a cozy cottage with a loving family on Cheddar Lane.
To him, cheese meant being a big cheese in a mansion atop Cannonbear Hill.
Eventually, they all discovered their own kind of cheese in Cheese Station C.
Every morning after that, Snip and Scurry woke early each day and ran the same route through the maze to Cheese Station C. Snip and Scurry hung their running shoes around their necks in case they needed to get to them quickly.
But Ham and Haw awoke each day a little later and sauntered over to Cheese Station C.
After all, they knew where the cheese was and how to get there, and they assumed it would always be there.
Ham and Haw put their running shoes away. They thought they wouldn't be needing them again.
This is great! There's enough cheese here to last us forever! Sure is!
They felt secure. They even decorated the walls with sayings.
Ham and Haw became so comfortable they didn't notice what had been happening.
Meanwhile, Snip and Scurry inspected the area each morning to see if there had been any changes from the day before.
One morning, they arrived at Cheese Station C and discovered there was no cheese.
They weren't surprised, since they'd noticed the supply of cheese had been getting smaller.
The mice did not overanalyze things. The situation had changed, so Snip and Scurry changed.
They were soon off in search of new cheese.
Later that day, Ham and Haw arrived at Cheese Station C.
They had not been paying attention to the changes that had been taking place.
What? No cheese? No cheese? Who moved my cheese? It's not fair!
Ham, I know we're smarter than mice, but we're not acting like it at the moment. What'll happen if the cheese isn't here tomorrow? I've made plans based on this cheese.
While Snip and Scurry had moved on, Ham and Haw continued to Ham and Haw.
One night, Haw wrote on the wall,
The more important cheese is to you, the more you want to hold on to it.
The next day, Ham and Haw still somehow expected to find their cheese in the same place.
Why did they do this to me?
Where are Snip and Scurry? Do you think they know something we don't?
No, they're just simple mice. We're little people. We're entitled to our cheese.
Yeah, but maybe we should just simply get going and find some new cheese.
Oh, no. I'm going to get to the bottom of this. I want things to be the way they were.
Meanwhile, Snip and Scurry moved further into the maze. They didn't think of anything else but finding new cheese.
After much trial and error, Snip and Scurry found the biggest store of cheese they had ever seen at Cheese Station A.
Meanwhile, Ham and Haw were still hemming and hawing at empty Cheese Station C.
Then Haw began to imagine himself out in the maze, finding fresh new cheese.
Before long, he could almost taste it.
Come on, Ham. Let's go.
No, I like it here. It's comfortable. Besides, it's real dangerous out there.
Haw imagined the worst. His hope of finding new cheese faded.
So every day, Ham and Haw went from their homes to Cheeseless Station C.
And returned home again with empty bellies, full of nothing but stress.
Who moved my cheese? Who moved my cheese? Who moved my cheese?
Ham, look at us. We keep doing the same things over and over and wonder why things don't get better. It's time to move on.
You're not really going out into the maze again. Why don't we wait here until they put the cheese back?
You just don't get it. They're never going to put the old cheese back. That was yesterday's cheese. It's time to find new cheese.
Oh, but what if there's no cheese out there? Or what if you can't find it?
Ham, life moves on, and so should we.
No! Who moved my cheese? Who moved my cheese? Who moved my
If
cheese?
we don't change, we could become extinct.
Like him, a part of Ha was afraid. Then Ha wrote on the wall what he had been thinking about.
What would you do if you weren't afraid?
It wasn't long before Ha knew what to do. Ha gathered all his courage and jogged into the unknown.
It's maze time!
At first he felt lost. But it wasn't long before he began to find his way.
Being back in the maze isn't nearly as bad as I feared. How did I get into this situation? I've been watching what was happening.
Ha stopped to write on the maze wall what he was learning.
Smell the cheese often so you know when it's getting old.
Paul hoped that these handwritings on the wall would not only be reminders to himself, but also a marked trail for him to follow if he chose to enter the maze.
Why do I feel so good? I don't have any cheese and I don't know where it is. Aha! When you move beyond your fear, you feel free.
The more clearly Ha imagined himself finding new cheese, the more real it became.
Imagining myself enjoying new cheese even before I find it leads me to it.
Finally, Paul arrived at a large cheese station.
But it was practically empty.
I'm too late. If I'd moved on sooner, I might have found a lot of new cheese here.
Paul did find several delicious morsels of new cheese.
It wasn't much, but enough to keep him going.
I've got to get back and tell him there's some new cheese out here.
Ha raced back to Cheese Station C, following the route he had marked.
He found his friend still hemming and hawing. Ham had not even put on his running shoes.
Oh, Ham, you look hungry. Here, have a few bits of new cheese.
I don't think I would like new cheese. I want my own cheese back. I'm sure if I wait here long enough, things will be the way they were.
Will Ham ever change?
Ham was left behind, hemmed in by fear, comfort, and denial.
I guess Ham believes he can't or won't enjoy new cheese. He seems to believe that if he ventures into the maze, things will get worse. I see now that if I do things differently, things will get better. When you change what you believe, you change what you do.
Paul found bits of cheese here and there and began to regain his strength. He had hoped that Ham might find his way by reading the handwriting on the wall.
Ha had let go of the past and was adapting to the present. He was pursuing new cheese.
And then it happened.
Piled high everywhere was the greatest supply of cheese he had ever seen.
Wow! New cheese! Is it real or just my imagination? It is real!
Ha realized that Sniff and Scurry had been enjoying new cheese for quite a while. He vowed that next time he would change faster.
Paul knew it would be easy for him to slip back to his old ways if he got too comfortable.
So each day he inspected Cheese Station N to check the condition of his cheese.
He went out into the maze and explored new areas.
He knew it was safer to be aware of his real choices than to isolate himself in his comfort zone. Then one day, Ha heard what he thought was the sound of movement out in the maze.
Could it be Ham? Was Ham about to turn the corner?
Ha hoped that maybe at last his friend was finally able to
Move to the new cheese and enjoy it.
Can you read the handwriting on the wall? Change happened. They keep moving the cheese. Anticipate change. Smell the cheese often so you know when it's getting old. Adapt to change quickly. The quicker you let go of old cheese, the sooner you can enjoy new cheese. Enjoy change. Savor the adventure and enjoy the taste of new cheese. Be ready to change quickly. And
Did you like the video? I hope you learned a lot from that video. Certainly, when I first saw that video, it was a good story about change because uh, Scurry and Sniffy and went directly to another station when there were changes. Unlike Ham and Hem or Ho or Hem, they were they still have that fear. So as a manager, we need to adjust to those changes. We need to go out of our comfort zone. Okay? So I'll just go to the presentation before. Where were we? Okay. So I hope you learned something about that story. Uh, because if you don't go out of your comfort zone, as what they said, you will be extinct. So imagine the two, Sniffy and Scurry, immediately went to the next station. Unlike Hem and Ho, who because of fear did not try. Why? Because they were afraid. Okay. So these are the steps whenever you want to apply changes in your organization. First is establish a sense of urgency. In that particular story, there was no cheese. So you have to act urgently because there was no cheese anymore. Create the guiding coalition. So who are the persons who would help you implement the changes? And then develop a vision and strategy. What is your vision when it comes to changes? Okay. Empower broad-based action. What are you going to do? How are you going to solve problems? Generate short-term wins. So when Ho went to other stations, he was discouraged because there were no cheese. But what he was thinking was if he changed his behavior, he will be open to change. Consolidate gains and produce more change. and then anchor new approaches in the culture. So it's important that if there are changes, it becomes part of the culture of the organization. Okay, so those are the steps in managing organizational change. What are the tools as managers that you can use to implement changes or solve problems? Use the SWOT analysis: strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threat. Use the fishbone analysis and the force field analysis. The SWOT analysis identifies your strengths, your weakness, opportunities, and threats. I always use this to create a unique value proposition. What will make your company, your decision unique from others so that it will not be copied easily? The fishbone diagram is used to identify the main problem or the main cause of the problem. Okay? The fish head is where the problem is. The others would be the reason why there's a problem. Okay, so that's the fishbone diagram. The last one is the force field analysis. What are the forces against change and what are the forces to change? For example, you want to lose weight. What are the forces against change? Well, it's good to eat. Okay, masarap kumain. Mahirap mag-exercise, masarap matulog. What are the forces to change? So, you will be healthier and you can wear better clothes. Okay? So, for example, this is the developed by Kurt Lewin for field analysis. So, what are the resistance to change? Need fulfillment, fear of the unknown. Hem doesn't want to go to other stations because of fear. Threats to power and influence, why would I go there? Okay, I will just fail. Organizational structure, knowledge and skill obsolescence. Forces for change, accountability, changing demographics, staffing shortages, technological changes, knowledge explosion, processes, and people. So you can use this force field analysis to identify which are the forces for change and the resistance to change. Okay. So why are we resistant to change? Oh, there's a lot of reasons, but normally it's fear of the unknown, interference with need fulfillment, which I discussed earlier. So what are the key takeaways? I hope that you were able to learn something of being a manager. You have to be efficient, you have to be productive, you have to go out of your comfort zone, you have to learn more and develop more yourself. Okay? After 2 or 3 years, when you become a full-fledged manager, I will discuss e-coaching. What is the definition of coaching? What is a coach and what is a coach is not? Difference between a coach, a teacher, a consultant, mentor, and counselor. What are the levels of coachability and situational leadership again? So hoping that I can see you again when you become a full-fledged manager. So these are my references. All of the things that I discussed came from these books, some from my master class in LaSalle, and some based on my experience with my company. So my working principles, if you have time, please read my articles in J. Ronald Tag. It's important that you learn something from leaders. So see you in my e-coaching program next time. And thank you. Everything starts with you. Develop yourself and opportunities will come so that you can serve others. Learn, lead, and serve. Thank you again.